I'm Marlo Klain here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with some breaking news. Defending Indianapolis 500 winner Buddy Rice has not been cleared to drive, and he will not participate in the 89th running of this race on May 29th. Last Wednesday, Rice was involved in a crash where he ended up with a concussion and a bruised back. After further evaluation early this week and an MRI, it was revealed that he has a torn spinal ligament. He is out at least 3 weeks. As for who will replace Buddy Rice in the car, that announcement will come tomorrow morning here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But there is speculation that the guy Rice replaced in the car when he was injured, former Indy 500 winner Kenny Breck, could be in the car for this year's race. We will have much more on this story tomorrow, but now let's continue with SportsCenter from the Indianapolis 500 with a tribute to the 10th anniversary of the IRL.
This is SportsCenter at the Indianapolis 500.
10 years ago, one man dared to dream.
The dream is real. The green flag is out.
The reality, develop a platform for high-speed oval track racing. America's window to the greatest spectacle in racing.
Little Al wins. Car gets upside down. Yeah!
There were highs.
The last lap of the race, a half a lap to go, and Jeff Ward takes it.
There were lows.
Count.
But for many, it was a ride to glory. Performance is rewarded with a place among legends. SportsCenter at the Indianapolis 500 takes a look back at the birth of a league and a decade of Indy racing memories. We welcome you to Indianapolis Motor Speedway along with IndyCar Series veteran and expert Scott Goodyear. I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you back with us here. And Scotty, it's hard to believe it has been 10 years since Tony George's vision first took shape.
Wow, what a difference a decade makes. You know, when you think about it, 10 years has gone by so quickly. All the sponsors are here now, all the drivers are here, all the teams want to be here, and especially for the Indianapolis 500. The thing that impresses me is the safety that Tony George and Brian Barnhart had taken upon themselves to make it safer for all race drivers to race Indy cars and other cars around the world with the invention of the safer barrier.
Well, let's take a look back at some of the memorable moments in the early years of the Indy Racing League. January 27, 1996, the green flag waves on the first ever IRL race at Walt Disney World Speedway in Orlando. Buzz Calkins making history, beating Tony Stewart to the checkered flag. Later that year, Hamilton Racing driver Buddy Lazier wins the first Indianapolis 500 under the IRL banner despite suffering a broken back just 8 weeks earlier in Phoenix. The 1997 season saw the closest championship battle in IRL history. 26-year-old Tony Stewart edging Davey Hamilton by 6 points for the title. Stewart recorded 6 top 10 finishes that year. May of 2000, kart regular Juan Montoya steals the show at Indy, dominating, leading 167 of 200 laps on the way to the checkered flag. August 10, 2002, Sarah Fisher becomes the first woman in North American motorsports history to win the pole for a Major League open wheel race. She captured the top spot at Kentucky. In April 2003, the IRL Series takes its show on the road, venturing outside the U.S. for the first time, Scott Sharp winning in Motegi, Japan. Since 1996, the IRL IndyCar Series has had 117 total races. A total of 35 drivers have taken the checkered flag to win a race. 9 drivers have won the IndyCar Series championship, with its very first being shared by 2 drivers, Scott Sharp and Buzz Calkins. 8 different drivers have won the Indy 500, and there have been 141 different drivers to compete in an IndyCar Series event here in the Indy Racing League.
Here he is. Kenny Breck wins the 1999 83rd running of the Indianapolis 500.
What does it mean to become a new motor sports hero by winning the Indy 500?
I don't know what it means yet, but I've been practicing drinking milk all week.
Great moments here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the owner of that car joins us now, the legendary A.J. Foyt, Super Tex. Now, he owned that car, which won at Indy, but he also drove for 4 victories at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, becoming the first 4-time winner of the Indy 500. Now with Kenny Breck, that makes 5. I can count. I understand that's 5, and hopefully 6 this year with Anthony. A.J., thanks for joining us so much here on this special show.
Well, it's a great day to be with both of you guys.
You know, when you first heard of Tony George's idea to form an open wheel racing series centered around this event, the Indy 500, what was your initial reaction to Tony's vision?
Well, I think it's a good vision. I think it's something that's going to have to be done. And, you know, it's got its stepping stones. And, you know, when you're building something, you're going to have stumbling blocks.
You know, when the league was first formed, it caused some friction in the racing community. Some of your chief rivals, like the Mario Andretti's and some of the Emerson Fittipaldis and others, decided they weren't going to come here. They were going to stay where they were in kart. You came here right away. Why make the move immediately?
The reason I did, because, you know, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was like a Kentucky Derby. It's only one. And Indianapolis Motor Speedway is what made A.J. Foyt what he is today. And actually, you wouldn't even heard of the Andretti's or Fittipaldis if it wouldn't be for the Indy 500. And you notice they've all come back like a bunch of birds. They've all come back to their nest. I wouldn't be nobody if it wouldn't be for the Indy 500.
AJ, 1997, Indiana native Tony Stewart won the IRL IndyCar Series Championship. And then a couple of years later, he headed over to NASCAR. What impact did it have, Tony leaving here and going to drive stock cars?
Well, you know, Tony is a good friend of mine. I gave him his first ride at Phoenix in a test run. It wasn't in a race, and we're still good friends. He was raised around here in midgets and sprints, what made his name. And I think he went over there, not because he wanted to, but, you know, it's good money and things like that, and that's one reason he left.
One of the most memorable moments, I think, in the IRL IndyCar history, I happen to be a part of. I was standing in Victory Lane at Texas Motor Speedway in 1997. You and I were talking about a great run, and suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I see Arie Luyendyk entering Victory Lane, and you became AJ, the old AJ. We remember the fire came out. How much did that generate some media exposure for the league, even though it was sort of a situation that was you probably don't want to look back on? It did get a lot of exposure for IndyCar racing.
Well, it did, and I haven't lived it down yet, as you say. I got assaulted, so I had to protect myself.
Where do you see this series in 5 years or 10 years from now?
Well, if I'm still around, I think you're going to see it about twice as big as it is right now. You know, I think that's one thing that really helped NASCAR was the Brickyard 400. I think it was good that they run here. Because I know a lot of the drivers, and Daytona 500, I've been fortunate enough to win there, 400 and whatever. But one race I'd like to have won, but it's towards the end of my career, but at least I did say I raced in the first race here, the Brickyard 400.
Are you ever going to just sit back and go home and just take it easy and enjoy all the things you've accomplished, or do you want to, how much longer do you want to be here?
I don't know. I came here as a young boy, and I guess I'm going to go out of here as an old man. I'm old already. But, no, I really enjoy it here. To me, this is like my second home. I've probably spent as much time in the Indiana racing all over Indiana and Illinois and all through the Midwest here as I have in Texas. So it's just part of my life, and I guess that's about how I got to answer it.
You know, for the millions of fans who can't sit here where Scott and I are, you know, I've got to say to you that thanks for so many wonderful memories. I mean, you have done so much for motorsports and given us so many great memories as a driver and as an owner, and even there on the pit wall occasionally assaulting that computer every now and then. But we will always remember the things you have done, and hopefully you're going to give us some more in the years to come. Thanks for coming today and joining us.
Thank you. I wish y'all remember the good things, not the bad things.
When we return, we'll be joined by A.J. Foyt's first driver in the IRL Series. Series veteran Scott Sharp stops by to talk about the past, the present, and the future.
Scott Sharp has the advantage as they come down for the white flag. 1 to go, a mile and a half left at Texas. McGee heads for the high side. Oh, it was so close going into turn 1.
He got a little run going in, but that low side is...
We're on the last lap of the race. The last lap of the race, a half a lap to go. McGee and Scott Sharp battle for the lead and the win at Texas. They come to the four corners side by side. Scott Sharp drives, gets the advantage, and comes down and wins it. Wow!
Second winningest driver in IRL IndyCar Series history, Scott Sharp, one of his great moments, and he's preparing to start his 95th consecutive race from the front row here in the 89th running of the Indy 500. We welcome Scott Sharp here. And Scotty, I got to ask you, your career began as a road racer in SCCA Trans Am and other events. What got you interested in the IRL?
Well, basically, I always wanted to race Indy cars. Certainly, forever as I was young, I remember sitting on the couch watching the Indy 500 with my dad and, just dreaming about maybe one day being there. And I grew up, obviously, like I said, on the road courses, got into the Trans Am Series, and the Trans Am Series ran with the Indy cars all the time. So it's really something I always wanted to do. And then I got hooked up with AJ Foyt in the 1995 Indy 500 here. And he then, at the end of that year, went to the newly formed IRL and asked me to come drive for him. So really, it was out of opportunity that I started. And like you said, I spent my whole career road courses thinking, that's sort of why maybe I didn't want to go NASCAR racing, was because I sort of made myself a pretty good road course driver, and then I was running ovals all the time. So it's funny how, life's twists and turns, but pretty pleased with how it's turned out.
Now, you drove for AJ for 2 years. What was the biggest thing that you learned from AJ that you might still be using today?
Well, actually, there's so much humor, so many great instances. He and I got along great, and I learned quickly that he was the boss instead of just, watch and laugh and be involved. But, he's tutored so many young drivers over the years, especially someone that was as green as I was to ovals when I first started with him. Boy, he could teach you so much as far as about lines and setting up the car and how it should feel. And for a young driver, he's really invaluable.
You've been here since the series began, Scotty, and driving in the Indy Racing League, 104 starts. I mean, more than anyone else in the series. Is there one defining moment that stands out as the moment you think this series really started to take shape?
Well, it's funny. Obviously, it's easy for me to say after watching that clip of me winning that race, but I think that the big track races, all of a sudden, people saw a whole different kind of product that open wheel racing could put on the racetrack. And it started as just a couple cars continuously being side by side, a couple inches apart from each other. But as we've seen now over the last few years, that's grown into this sort of angry, aggressive pack. Sometimes 3 wide, 4 rows deep, guys banging off each other when we don't have fenders. It's gotten pretty hairy out there. But I think I believe our on-track product is the top in motorsports. I think as a visual for the fan, it is the best excitement money can buy.
We know you'd won the championship in the first year you were a co-champion. We saw that dramatic win at Texas. What would be your defining moment, your most memorable moment as a driver in IRL IndyCar Series action?
I think that takes, just look around behind us here a little bit. Winning this race is certainly something, that would be the ultimate, I think. It's what I spend probably, there's a part of me every day that thinks about the Indy 500. But there's also part of me that, hey, if that never happens, my life's going to go on, and I've got a wonderful family, and I really, think I'm going to have a lot more of a strong career. So, but hopefully can. I'm excited for this year with the Fernandez team. I think we're really going to be strong.
Well, he's won the pole. He did it in 2001. He starts on the front row this year. We wish you the best of luck in the race. Coming up, the IRL has had many memorable moments in its 10-year history. What does the next 10 years have in store for us? We'll pose those questions and more to IndyCar Series President Brian Barnhart. Joining us now, it's a privilege to have the President and Chief Operating Officer of the Indy Racing League join us, Brian Barnhart. And Brian, thanks for taking a few moments to come by and visit. When the Indy Racing League was formed, Tony George had a vision of exactly what he wanted open wheel racing to be. Where over the last 10 years has this vision hit the mark, and where has it fallen a little bit short?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty broad question. I think we have been very good at some cost containment. We've certainly, especially the last 4 or 5 years, put on some of the greatest and best racing in any form of motorsports around. So I think we've done a good job in those areas. I think we're probably a little behind where we'd like to be after 9 years moving into our 10th year, but I think we're on the right track.
Now, Brian, there's been a lot of talk about the unification between both series. Do you see any possibility in the future of that happening, or is the IRL continuing on their business path?
Well, we'll certainly continue on our path, without a doubt. I mean, we've got to do what is in our best interest. But I think everyone agrees a single open-wheel series is in the best interest of open-wheel racing in the future. But that being said, it's not as simple as just having common technical specifications. There's some significant philosophical differences that would need to be addressed. The Holman George family has been heavily invested in open-wheel racing since the purchase of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 1946. There's been times that they're about the only group investing in open-wheel racing, and I can tell you that the Holman George family will continue to invest in open-wheel racing in the future.
In 2000, Brian, kart regular Juan Montoya came over here. Target Ganassi, Chip Ganassi brought him here to run the Indy 500. He won the race. What impact did that have on the future of the series?
Well, I think the best thing that it did was it really showed Target Chip Ganassi Racing what a quality series the IndyCar Series is for the Indy Racing League. And I think Chip's positive experience over here, and not just winning the race, I think the way he was treated and seeing how we conducted the events, how we operate, how we officiate, certainly swayed his opinion to bring a car over here. And shortly thereafter, you had Roger Penske follow, and you've had Bobby Rahal, Adrian Fernandez, and Michael Andretti's teams. So we have the finest quality competitors going, and I think Chip was the first one to lead that way. And when he brought Juan back here and won the race, and I think that has really changed the level of competition in the IndyCar Series in a positive direction.
Brian, yourself and your administration have really been looking forward on safety, and as a previous driver, I certainly have appreciated that. Obviously, the safer barrier is something that Tony and you have done. Are you satisfied with what the safer barrier is doing today, and is there anything in the future that you see coming?
Well, we're very proud of the safer barrier and the fact that Tony George, again, invested in open wheel racing, and especially from a safety aspect. Yeah, we're very pleased with the safer barrier, but you're never going to be satisfied and stop. Safety is a priority. It will continue to be a priority in all aspects for our competitors, spectators, all participants. We'll do everything we can to improve the safety aspect of our cars as we continue to move forward.
Brian, there's a lot of excitement in the wind, a lot of rumors out there about where the IRL, the IndyCar Series goes in the future. A lot of discussion about maybe races in Mexico or Canada. We're already in Japan and Motegi. Any thoughts about where we might be headed?
Well, I think expansion is in our future, and I think the very successful event that was conducted at St. Petersburg early in April, again, was a testimony to our staff and the ability of the cars to now turn right. They've been optimized to be oval track cars over the years, and now we're on a road course with them and a street course, and we've had a successful test at Infineon. We're very much looking forward to going to Watkins Glen, and that gives us a lot of opportunities that we can expand the series, bring it to more people, road racing fans. Again, it gives us a great future from that standpoint.
There's another rule package change coming up for 2007. I'm sure it's going to be based on safety. Do you have any direction so far? What's going to happen with the engines and the chassis for that year?
Again, we feel very good about where we are and what our options are for our 2007 package. We will make sure our manufacturers are given about 18 months notice before we move into 2007, but we're not going to make the announcement during this month. We don't want to take anything away from the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500, have any distractions for our engine manufacturers or our chassis manufacturers. We've got some great options. We've got a lot of options. We feel very good about our direction, and that announcement will be coming in June.
I feel very good about our leadership in this league. And this guy here began as a mechanic. He became a superintendent at the racetrack and now is president of the league. And I think if you ask people in the garage area, one word that they'll all mention about Brian Barnhart is respect. They respect his opinion and his abilities. Brian, thanks for coming over and joining us here today.
Thanks, guys.
Well, coming up, they've been exciting, they've been close, and they've been wild. The top 10 IRL finishes, and not all of them have occurred on the racetrack. And we invite you to join us each weekday afternoon, Monday through Friday, 6:30 Eastern Time, SportsCenter at the Indianapolis 500, right here on ESPN2. If you like wheel-to-wheel racing, the IRL has provided its share of excitement over the last decade. 40% of the races in this series have been decided by less than a second. In tonight's SportsCenter Top 10, we wave the checkered flag on some of the best finishes you'll ever see.
Heading up the list at number 10, 2003 Firestone 400 at Michigan, where Californian Alex Barron collected his second career Indy Racing League victory in exciting fashion.
Here we go. They go side by side into three. Outside. Coming from the line. Coming for the flag. Outside. Hornets has got a final, but Barron now pushes ahead. Barron takes the win from second place.
Number 9, Richmond 2002. The final laps of the 250-lap race was a high-speed, high-wire act starring Sam Hornish Jr. and Gilles Lefebvre. But it was the crafty driving of Sam Hornish that paid off down the stretch.
Now he comes down to the inside, and he goes around to Barron. Hornish grabs the lead in the last seconds, and there's the checkered flag for Sam Hornish Jr.
A little drama at number 8. In 1997, Texas Motor Speedway housed one of the most controversial endings in IRL history. On lap 190, Tony Stewart waved Arie Luyendyk by, thinking he was a lap down. He didn't realize he had just handed the lead to the Flying Dutchman. But after a scoring error, Billy Boat was flagged as the winner. As Boat and his legendary car owner A.J. Foyt celebrated in Victory Lane, a furious Luyendyk barged in demanding an explanation from the officials.
Then I had
outcome.
However, Lyndike was right. He eventually won his appeal and was declared the winner. At number 7, we return to Texas in 2000. After the field delivered an action-packed race, Scott Sharp and Robbie McGehee went wheel-to-wheel, side-by-side for the last half mile to determine the fate of this one.
It's the last lap of the race, a half a lap to go. McGehee and Scott Sharp battle for the lead and the win at Texas. They come to the front corner side-by-side. Scott Sharp drives, gets the advantage, and comes down and wins it.
At number 6 on the charts, it was a thriller at Chicagoland Speedway in 2003. Sam Hornish Jr. battled side-by-side with Brian Herta down the stretch, only to have Scott Dixon emerge and make it a 3-car dive for the finish. Hornish, Dixon, and Herta crossed the finish line 3 wide, with Hornish taking the checker, the closest 1-2-3 finish in the history of the IndyCar Series. A patriotic performance at number 5, Independence Day 2004. Rahal Letterman Racing teammates Buddy Rice and Vitor Miera took their battle down to the wire in a 14-lap shootout at Kansas Speedway.
Now they thunder into turn 3. Final 2 corners in this run here, and it's still a question mark. Vitor Miera drops back just a bit. Now he pulls up alongside and at the line. Miera now right. Whoa! IRL's done it again. Another fantastic finish.
At number 4 on the list, 2002 Boomtown 400. Jeff Ward led only 1 lap around the Texas Motor Speedway, but he did it when it counted the most, on the final lap.
We're going to start the final lap with Unser Jr. in front. Here comes Jeff Ward.
Looking high, he's high. Keep pushing.
Checkered flag is out ahead, and Jeff Ward takes it. Jeff Ward by inches.
Sam Hornish takes the track once again at number 3 for the last lap of the Chevy 500, with Helio Castro-Neves running side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel.
They come for the line. They come for the line. And it's Hornish. It's Hornish. Hornish the champion. Hornish the winner.
At number 2, Sam Hornish had already clinched the IRL season title as he headed into Texas, but he found a way to make the final race of the 2001 season exciting.
Sharp, Hornish, Buell at Texas for the win. Scott Sharp maintains the slight advantage as they come off the 4th corner at the line. Oh, Hornish got him! Oh my gosh, what a finish!
Unbelievable! And Sam Hornish takes the pole at number 1 for his 2002 performance at Chicagoland. An epic battle with Al Unser Jr. in a photo finish.
2 by 2, the front 4. The field all tightly bunched together. And Unser Jr. and Hornish go to the line side by side. Hornish with his 7th career win. Boy, it was amazingly close.
Well, Scott, it's hard to believe that Tony George's vision, 10 years old, they have come so far, so fast. What sticks out in your mind that they have accomplished here in just 10 short years that really stands out?
I think one of the biggest things that has impressed me is that not only the competitiveness of the series, not only the drivers and the teams and the manufacturers that are involved now. Obviously, we have Toyota, Honda, and Chevrolet, the chassis manufacturers that are here, but the safety of this series has just increased year after year. And the vision that Tony George has had with the safer barrier system, he thinks about safety for all these drivers as if they are his family, and from a previous driving standpoint, that's what I like about Tony George and Brian Barnhart.
I would echo that. They redesigned the cars. They've redesigned the attenuators in the back of the cars, the entire cockpit, the surround area for the head, and that safer barrier. When you can see a driver hit a wall at 90 G's and get out and walk away, that wouldn't have happened before the IRL IndyCar Series came into being. Well, we leave you with a look at some of the great drivers, champions among them, that have helped build the IRL IndyCar Series into the open-wheel juggernaut it has become today. So long, everyone, from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.